Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills, this is Brock Shimano. Today is Thursday the 29th, and we had the export sales report released earlier today. Keep in mind this is the second to last report of the 2012 marketing year, and we're going to let you know exactly where we stand in terms of the overall summary and the report that we've been tracking all year long. Let's turn right over to the Fire Tip trading platform and see where we closed off the day here. Corn for December trading up 3/4 cents. We saw November soybeans trading down 4 1/4. Wheat in Chicago trading down 5 1/4, and Kansas City wheat trading off 5 1/4 as well. Brock, without further ado, why don't we just talk about the export sales? Where are we? Will the USDA have to make any revisions?
You know, in this week's exports sale report, we didn't see a whole lot of surprises there. We did see wheat coming at the high end of expectations, 551,000 metric tons there. New crop corn, we saw 673,000 metric tons. That did beat analyst expectations. And for new crop soybeans, 868,000 metric tons. That was at the high end of analyst expectations. As far as old crop is concerned, and like you said, Cody, we are at the end of the marketing year. We did see a couple reductions. For corn, we saw reductions of 15,000 metric tons there. For soybeans, we saw 3,000 metric tons reduced there. But if we take a look at the chart, we've been following all marketing year long. The red line is the seasonal pace to meet that current USDA projection. You can see that last bar is slightly on the negative side. But for the year, we are about 500,000 bushels ahead of pace to meet the current USDA projections. So I don't really anticipate a revision of very large amount for the USDA to make in the September WASDE report. But soybeans is just a little bit of a different story. If we take a look at the chart here, once again, we did have a little bit of a reduction this week. But for the marketing year, we are 33 million bushels ahead of pace still to meet the current USDA projections. So I do anticipate a little bit of a revision higher by the USDA to the soybean export sales that we've made this year so far.
Okay, and you know, let's take a look at wheat here, because that's one of the things that we noticed here today. Wheat traded down, and I think that really had to do with the fact that the U.S. dollar did gain a little bit of strength here. If you take a look at the chart, you'll notice that today we've kind of, in the last month or so, we've really printed a little bit of what looks like a bottom on the low side of this range that the dollar's been trading in. It looks as though we punched higher, and I think that's putting a little bit of pressure on wheat in particular, since that's such a globally grown crop. Corn, when you look at corn, really, the U.S. and South America were the major producers. I think the dollar really affects wheat in particular. The other thing about wheat today is that Egypt had a tender, and U.S. wheat wasn't even offered in that tender because of the price. And so I think that's important to keep in mind when you're looking at wheat and you're trading wheat, is that right now it's just not very competitive on the global market. Other than that, Brock, when you look at corn, when you look at soybeans, where are we right now going into this long weekend, and where do you think we might go?
You know, we do have a holiday on Monday. The markets are going to be closed on Sunday night and Monday during the day session. Reopen on Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. But looking at the weekend and heading into the weekend, something to note is that September 1st notice contract for the September contracts is tomorrow. So we've seen a little bit of a dichotomy between the old crop contracts in September and the new crop contracts for corn and soybeans. So that's something we'll have to pay attention to tomorrow, as first notice day is tomorrow. Something else you're going to want to pay attention to heading into the weekend is the precipitation forecast is not looking very good at this point. The temperatures have backed off a little bit. We are expecting a little bit cooler temperatures through the weekend and into early next week, but if we take a look at these maps provided by Plant Analytics, you'll see that the 6 to 10 day precipitation forecast for much of the Midwest is to be quite a bit drier than what is normal for this time of year. And then the longer term forecast, the 8 to 14 day forecast, is actually a little bit drier as well. So, it's still going to be a concern. The precipitation heading out for the next couple of weeks is still supposed to be pretty dry. It's going to be tough to fill out some of this grain that's in the late stages of development.
I agree. And, it looks as though we might get a little bit of a rain event over the weekend, but that is mostly for the isolated for the eastern part of the grain belt, northeastern part. Not the areas that really need the drink, in the west of the Mississippi and the core of the grain belt there. So that's going to be a problem. And I think we're going to start to switch here. The market's really going to start to switch their perspective, the way they're viewing this whole thing, because, any rain after next week, the question isn't whether or not we're going to get rain, but if we get rain, how much is it going to help the crops at this point? I think, we're going through that grain filling time period. That's critical for defining really the size of the kernel, and we haven't had a whole lot of precipitation throughout the core of the grain belt. And I think that's a very, very serious concern here. And I think we're seeing it in soybeans, we're seeing it in corn as well. And it's really, for the most part, it was we saw it factored into the market in the last couple of weeks. You know, it seems as though the market's kind of calmed down. We're digesting it. We're in a consolidation mode going into the long weekend. And of course, you know, after the long weekend, we'll have another more updated weather forecast. And I think, you know, you're going to want to be able to come in there on Monday night and take a look at what the weather, any sort of developments in the weather, because that's most likely what's going to drive the trade early Tuesday morning. Other than that, guys, that wraps up this afternoon's Grain Hedge and GrainTV. If you have any questions about what we talked about, give us a call at 877-472-4607. Remember, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Thanks a lot. We'll see you here on Friday for the weekly.